Hi, this is Anne V. Brady, and I will be reading from A New Beginning, the story of my adoption, life, and service, illustrated by Eric C. Brady. Jim started pestering me about when Joe and I were getting married. I kept telling him we weren't getting married, but he didn't take the hint. One day he was at my parents' house when I got home from school. So I told Jim that Joe and I finally set a date to get married. He was very excited, so he asked when we were getting married. I told him never. Jim never asked me that again. Joe and I kept dating, and one night he asked me, "What does it feel like to be going out with the only boy you've never gone to bed with?" At first, I laughed because I thought he was making a joke. I started thinking about what he said, and I got angry. I first asked him if he had been talking to Bill Smith, because Bill Smith had said something similar to me earlier that night. He said no. I then told him that I'm a virgin and have never slept with anyone. I told him I was bothered and upset by what he said. He apologized and said he was joking. I told him it wasn't very funny. One night I got in late out at the Hampton Bays. I didn't want to wake up Gran, so I slept on the couch in the living room. Next morning I woke up feeling like I was being watched. I turned over and there were Laura and Bobby watching me, hoping I would wake up so they could watch cartoons. They were on the porch staring through the sliding glass doors. They had been told to be quiet, so they didn't wake me up. During the summer, I took quantitative chemistry over again. I was determined to pass this course. I asked the professor about tutoring. He gave me the name of one of his student aides. I contacted her. She informed me she didn't tutor students at all. I found the course much was easier this time. I passed easily. The next summer semester, I took a marine biology course. It was a mixture of lecture and field work. It was an awesome summer. My school advisor was upset that I took a marine biology course because he wanted to close the marine biology curriculum down. For some reason, he hated marine biology. We took field trips to Jones Beach and studied the life there. We found tube worms on the beach. We learned about mollusks, reeds, etc. We went to marshes and learned about different birds, egrets, herons, sandpipers, and cranes. We got to observe these plants and animals in their natural habitat. We spent one day fishing on the school boat. Some students caught fish. We also took the boat up the Hudson River from Jones Beach. Sailing through the Atlantic Ocean, we passed by a naval ship. The water was made rough by the naval ship's wake as it passed us. It was a hot day, but not too bad up on deck. As we went up the Hudson, we would use the instruments on board, take readings at different depths of the river at different spots along the river. The readings we took were oxygen levels in the river, temperatures of the river, PSI of water at different depths of the Hudson, etc. We wanted to find out at what temperature, oxygen level, and PSI we would stop seeing signs of life. We also dredged the bottom of the river to see what was living down at the very bottom of the Hudson River. We would sift through the silt from the bottom of the river to see what was down there. We also collected samples of the river at each spot we stopped and labeled them. I took some of the samples down below deck. It was hot and very little fresh air below deck. The swaying of the boat was more pronounced below deck. I started to feel faint and I threw up. I made it to the top of the deck and felt better almost immediately. I asked to help with taking readings. I did that for the rest of the trip. One of the other students had pulled a beautiful conch shell from where we sifted the silt. She put it in her purse to take home. Next day at school, she asked if I had formaldehyde. I told her no. She would have to ask the teacher. She told me that the shell she had collected the day before had a hermit crab living in it. It crawled out of the shell overnight and it had died. She had put it in a jar and she got formaldehyde from the teacher and put it in the jar. She didn't want the crabs, so she asked if I wanted it. So I so I said yes and took it home with me. I labeled the jar with its name and its genus and species. I put it in the basement with my other jars of dead insects, hermetically sealed. I put in It wasn't long after that my dad went down into the basement. He found all my jars of insects and made the mistake of opening one of the jars. The smell was so awful he dumped my whole collection into the trash. I was angry at him for doing that. In September, I took parasitology lecture and lab along with organic evolution lecture and one day a week a lab. I still have the textbooks for parasitology and organic evolution. Parasitology was an interesting course. We learned all about the different parasites like schistosomes, beef and pork, tapeworms. We saw the parasites under a dissecting microscope and under a compound microscope. We learned where the parasites were found in different stages of their life cycles. We learned the vectors that transmitted the parasites and their hosts. We learned the different diseases they caused and where in the body the parasites could be found, such as lungs, intestines, blood, or sometimes even the brain. One lab, the teacher provided live frogs for dissection. We had a choice. We could pith our own frogs, or the teacher could do it for us. I let the teacher do it. I just couldn't do it. Later at home, I told my parents about it. My parents kept telling me I should have done it myself. I was glad I didn't. Organic evolution was an interesting course. We covered Darwin and his research. Darwin set out to disprove evolution, but ended up believing in evolution. He sailed on the HMS Beagle. One day, for our lab, the teacher brought in several skulls. Some of the skulls were real, and some were replicas of real skulls. The skulls were of monkeys, apes, different types of human skulls, such as Neanderthal and modern human. We looked at all the skulls and discussed the similarities and differences between the skulls. The teacher was tall and was always dressed in blue jeans, denim shirt, cowboy boots, and a cowboy hat. Shirt was embroidered with salamanders. The teacher talked about how he would go on sabbatical to study the life of salamanders, newts, and efts. He explained evolution by using salamanders as an example. He said if you have a population of salamanders in the desert and take some of the population to mountains miles away, over several generations, salamander population will adapt. When new salamanders are hatched, the environment will favor mutations that will allow the salamanders to live in the new environment, and those that can't adapt to the environment won't survive. After several generations, if you go to the mountains and take some of the salamanders back to the desert, the salamanders from the mountains will have evolved so much that they are now a new species of salamander that can no longer mate with the desert salamander and produce viable offspring. I went to see my guidance counselor about applying for internships. I asked him where I could apply to get an internship. He handed me a book and told me that I would have to find my own internships. that the school had lost its affiliations with any hospitals awarding medical technology internships. I graduated in January 1978. Below is a picture of Gran and me in cap and gown. I'm in cap and gown. It's a black cap and gown with a yellow sash, and my grandmother's sitting next to me in bed, and she's got a blanket on her and a bed jacket. I started applying for internships in New York and Massachusetts. My mom and I would visit Uncle Warren and Aunt Scotty while I did interviews at hospitals in Massachusetts. I had already set up the dates and times with the hospitals. We would leave early and find the hospital. Then we would go eat breakfast or lunch to kill time. We would arrive 15 minutes early for the interview, and my mom would wait outside for me. We would go back and visit with Uncle Warren and Aunt Scotty. Occasionally, one of their sons, Kenny, would visit, and I got to spend time with Kenny and his horses. Kenny trained and rode horses in harness racing. I would go to the stables and help him take care of the horses. Sometimes Kenny would take me to the horse races, and we went to a track in Framingham, Massachusetts several times, and once in New Hampshire. We would each put $1 to bet and alternate who would pick the horse to bet on. Any winnings we would split. We were trying to see which method worked better, his or mine. Then there's a picture of Kenny and me. We're both in blue jeans with blue jean jackets. Kenny has a shirt underneath it, and he has long hair, and I have long hair. We're both brown, have brown hair. Kenny looked through the racing form and looked at how each horse performed in certain weather, who their sire and dam was, how many races did they come in first, second, third, or fourth in their last races. I, on the other hand, looked at the names of the horses and picked out a name I liked, unless I saw a gray horse running, and then I would bet on the gray. The reason I would bet on the gray was because you rarely see a gray horse running. It was a tie between our two methods. One time, my mom and I were trying to locate a street a hospital was on. I was trying to read the map. We pulled off to the side of the road and asked a man nearby if he could tell us where the road was and how to get to it. He proceeded to help us while telling us how stupid we were. I enjoyed going up to Massachusetts with my mom and visiting my aunt and uncle and cousins. We went to eat dinner one night with my cousin Jack and his family. We had venison. It was tough. The rest of the meal and company was great. It was my first time eating venison. Jack's wife, Beverly, was a gracious hostess. And that is going to be it for today. I want to wish everybody a happy weekend and have a great rest of the day. And I'll see you later.